Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 98 of Generation GC. I Heard You from Good Charlotte, the band's 2000 debut self-titled album. My name is Molly Hudelson once again, and as always, I am your host, as well as the producer, creator, and editor of this podcast. My guest today is Jonathan Hurtado. Last time, we talked about Reason to Stay from Youth Authority. On our next episode, we'll be talking about a song from The Young and the Hopeless. Jonathan Hurtado is a fifth grade teacher from Raleigh, California. Since he was a teenager, both Good Charlotte and Paramore have been tied as his favorite band. Little side note, I loved talking to Jonathan about Paramore. I had seen them in 2005 before they were big or anything. And I don't know, I never really took the time to get into them. But in recent years, I've been listening to more Paramore, and I love it. So it was pretty cool to talk to a Paramore expert, if you will. When Jonathan's not teaching, he enjoys reading books and going to concerts. He also loves spending time with his boyfriend, their dog Rocket, so we talked about the dog, and his nephew and niece. Also, hi, it's me, Molly, your host. I am recording this intro on Saturday, November 12th, which is a full month since I last released an episode 97 on Wednesday, October 12th. What have I been up to? In the intro for episode 97, as well as on Twitter, I share that I have just been having a lot of migraines. I still am dealing with that. In the past month, I have also been catching up with some writing and photography work, and just, trying to balance that. And that's super exciting. It's a lot of fun. But still dealing with some migraines. I had a stretch, not too long after I released last episode, for 13 days where I had a migraine almost every single day. It was brutal. I've been able to try some new medications since, tried some home remedies that help, ice packs, heating pads, supplements, that kind of thing. I'm still getting pretty frequent migraines, but the good news is, knock on wood, they have not been quite as severe, so I'm starting to get better at stopping them early. And it's just been a lot easier for me to be at my computer working on the podcast. I also have reading glasses now. Yeah, I needed reading glasses. Who knew? It's just a lot more comfortable to read. Would you believe that? Reading glasses make it more comfortable and easier to read or do any kind of close-up work. So, yes, things are definitely looking up. They're starting to improve, which is really exciting. And I'm definitely really hopeful that the next episode, episode 99, will come out soon, and I will update across all the Generation GC socials when that one is ready to go. Don't know exactly when yet, but hoping it's soon, hoping it's sooner than a month for sure. Yeah, it has definitely taken me a bit to get back into this routine of more regularly scheduled episodes, and I just want to say thank you again for listening to Generation GC. I love doing this show. I love researching to write my episode notes for recording. Any of my guests can attest to the super detailed Google Docs that I send out. I love having the conversations with each and every one of my guests and all the tangents we sometimes go on. And it's I never know where the conversation is going to take us, and that is so awesome. I love editing the episodes, putting the final thing together, and of course, I love more than anything sharing these episodes with you, hearing what you think and what you've connected with. So thank you for being a part of the Generation GC fam, for supporting this podcast, for listening, for spreading the word. It means so much to me. A few reminders before we go into episode 98. I love having guests from all around the world and from all different backgrounds on Generation GC. If English is not your first language, that's totally okay. As long as you're comfortable holding a conversation in English, you're good to go. And different backgrounds doesn't just mean location or ethnicity, though of course I want to have as many places and countries and cities represented as possible. I also want to ensure that we have a varied gender and sexuality representation, represent fans of different ages, and fans with their own unique life experiences of any sort. I would love, my biggest goal is for anyone listening to this show to feel like they are represented. So if you think you'd make a great guest for Generation GC, hit me up. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. If you do want a sticker, all you've got to do is support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/generationgcpod and click support. That money goes right back into making the show the best that it can be. So printing and shipping the stickers, as well as helping me buy things like a laptop stand so I can see the screen easier when I record, headphones, paper and pen, because I do take a lot of paper notes, especially as I'm planning and organizing things. So you're going to support the show on Anchor. Once again, that's anchor.fm/GenerationGCPod, P-O-D. And you're going to take a screenshot of that. Send that to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at GenerationGCPod, P-O-D, or email generationgcpod@gmail.com, as well as your mailing address, and I will send you stickers. Pretty cool, right? Thank you for tuning in, and now on to episode 98 of Generation GC.
So today we are talking about I Heard You from Good Charlotte's self-titled debut album released in the year 2000s. This is track 9. Track 8 is I Don't Want to Stop. Track 10 differs based on whether you have the original, which is the version with the band on the cover. If you had that one, track 10 is Walk By. If you had the updated deluxe that came out in 2001, a year later, that had the Click as track 10. And it just had the GC on the front. It didn't have a band anymore. I Heard You was not a single, but it looks like they played it live a ton in the early days. Setlist.fm shows that they haven't played it since 2003, which I can honestly believe. Although I could see this being a lot of fun at a show because it is so high energy, and I think it still speaks to a lot of themes that are still very relevant to the kind of music Good Charlotte is making today. So we will see. I don't know. Maybe, well, who knows? Next time they play shows, maybe we can put some requests in. But we have a lot to talk about with the song. But Jonathan, first, I want to help people get to know you. And the first question that I like to ask is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
So Molly, let me go back to 2002 actually.
Okay.
It was MTV TRL, and I was watching it. I've always been a pop guy. That was my thing. I was like a major NSYNC fan. I was a major pop, right? TRL was my place after school. I remember watching this video come on, and it was Lifestyles of Rich and Famous. And these guys are coming on, right? Very cool with the Liberty spikes. And
yeah.
Very, very cool. And I remember being like, wow, I'm intrigued by this. And then the song just kept going on, and I was just like very intrigued by them. So I think the next day I went to Walmart and bought Young and the Hopeless album. And from there, it just took off. So you had my cousin Jasmine on not too long ago. So I actually took that CD to her house one day, and we just both started getting into it. So I take credit for her being the GC fan that she is today.
I think she credited you and talked about you, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that you've had that influence on her. Jasmine is great. Hi, Jasmine. So I also have to ask, have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
So last night I was telling up my times that I've seen them, and I've only seen them 10 times. I felt like it was a lot more, but 10 times is where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Amazing.
I even have a Good Charlotte tattoo, a cassette with their name on it. Just kind of cassette being that's the first time I ever heard music, was cassettes for in. So yeah, I got that a couple of years ago.
I think the first 2 albums had a cassette release.
Right.
I don't think anything past that. Good Morning Revival might have.
I think it did. Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, maybe Chronicles did too, but yeah. I don't think they were super wide releases.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to see if I can get my hands on that. The cassettes and the action figures, the full band action figure set. Yeah.
Yes. I have those somewhere too. They're somewhere in storage. Yeah.
Oh my God. So jealous. Those are so cool. Well, I know you're a big Good Charlotte fan, but the other band I hear you absolutely love is Paramore. So tell me about discovering Paramore and what you love about them so much.
Okay, so that came a little bit after, I want to say. It was on MySpace.
Paramore came up later,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember it being on MySpace, right? When MySpace was their thing. And Pressure, the video for Pressure was on. And I remember just being like, whoa, who is this? A lead female singer, and it was just awesome. So from there, I took off with Paramore too. And I've seen them a little bit more times. I've even been on stage with Haley. I sang on stage with her in Vegas. Yeah, so that was really cool. So yeah, I love them both equally. I can't say I love one more than the other. Those two are my top for sure.
So I I saw Paramore in 2005. They opened for Simple Plan, which that's kind of a mindfuck of a sentence.
Right,
Paramore
honestly.
opened for Simple Plan.
Yeah.
I know Decode. I know some of this stuff. As a Paramore and Good Charlotte fan, what Paramore songs should GC fans check out?
Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit on a tangent with this one. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God, please.
So the album Riot and Brand New are like their biggest, like I would say the biggest pop punk albums. So I would probably say any song on those albums, Riot and Brand New Eyes. Back in 2009, Paramore was releasing Brand New Eyes, and for some reason I don't know why, but Joel had tweeted about Paramore and that album.
Oh my God.
And I like, what?
Did you like print that tweet out, put it in a frame?
Right, I did. I actually did.
Yes!
Somewhere. I have it somewhere.
Yes.
And I remember just being like mind blowing, like, wait, what? My two worlds are colliding, you know? Like,
amazing.
They were like communicating back and forth, and I was just like, what? So it was super exciting. I even got like hopeful, like, oh my God, am I getting a Good Charlotte Paramore, tour, but that would have been amazing. Yeah. But I remember him like promoting Brand New Eyes. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sure he listens to them, So that was like the coolest thing ever in 2009. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say Riot and Brand New Eyes were the pop punk albums to listen to.
Okay. Any particular songs from those?
So from Riot, I would say for The Pessimist, I'm pretty optimistic. And Brand New Eyes, I would probably say Brick by Boring Brick is a really good one. I mean, the whole Brand New Eyes album is really good. So anyone off of that one, for sure.
I'll give it another spin. I've been wanting to dye my hair, and I was just looking at Good Die Young.
Oh my gosh.
People really like it. It's not cheap, but people really like it. So
2 years ago I dyed it green off of her Good Die Young, so it was really good. I mean, it lasted quite a bit, so yes.
Okay.
Definitely recommend it.
All right. Yeah, I'll check it out. And I know it's all like vegan, cruelty free, which is amazing.
Yes. I think Walmart and Target even sells it now too. So
oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to check it out next time I'm at Target. Yeah. But Jonathan, I understand you're a fifth grade teacher. So fifth grade, I mean, some kids are not really, getting to music yet, but that's definitely the age where I think some kids at least are starting to explore music, entertainment, pop culture. So what are your students listening to? Or what TV do they like? I don't know, what movies, like what are the fifth graders? What's cool?
So it's funny, my students, I asked them this question this week, this was our first week of school, and a lot of them couldn't give me an answer, and I'm like, what? Like, how do you not listen to music, right? But like years prior, I had kids wearing like My Chemical Romance shirts, Green Day shirts. I was like, yes, they're bringing it back. But it's not as bad. Has not come back as, I would have liked it to. Like, I want that pop punk to come back. I would love to see a student in a Good Charlotte shirt one day, like that would be amazing. But I think a lot of my kids listen to like BTS, Bad Bunny, whatever's in.
That makes sense, yeah.
But I would love to see like, someone walking with a Good Charlotte shirt or actually know who they are, that would be amazing to me.
I feel like in a couple of years you might, like I'm going to turn 31 in a few days, so I don't have kids. But like in a couple of years, I feel like I'll see people that are about my age, our age, that have, 10-year-old kids or so.
Yes.
So, maybe in time the parental influence will start coming through. I mean, I have a couple of people that I've had on this show are parents. They have young kids. So in time, we'll see. Maybe
I hope so.
There.
I know. I don't have kids yet either, but when I do, I definitely want to introduce them to this world of our music, like. Of
course. Would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't have kids, but you do have a dog, Rocket.
Yes.
I love dogs, so I love to ask people with pets. So tell me about Rocket. What breed is he?
He's a 2-year-old beagle. He is the most amazing dog ever. He is like, he's just great. He's an awesome dog. Actually, it was funny. I actually posted a video on my Instagram yesterday. He was like mad at us because we didn't give him any dinner. So he looked so like he was like very emo. Like he did not want to talk to us. He was just there, like so angry with us.
Why didn't you give him dinner?
Because it was like kind of spicy for him, so we didn't want to share that.
You didn't give him your human dinner.
Our dinner. Yeah, our human dinner.
I thought you were saying you didn't give him his dinner.
No. Our human dinner. Beagles, if you didn't know, beagles have very strong noses, so they are very into food and they want your human food, versus their food. So
they're very like athletic too, right? So I'm sure they could jump and
and that nose gets them in trouble. Let me tell you, that nose definitely gets them in trouble. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we could talk about your dog all day, I'm sure.
Right.
But I want to get into I Heard You. So, I mean, we connected on Twitter, but through Jasmine.
Right.
I don't remember even exactly when, but I know it's been a long time. And I'm so glad we can finally do this.
I know, me too.
I want to know what sticks out to you about I Heard You.
Okay, for me, like I'm not gonna lie to you, Melly. Growing like when I was first a Good Charlotte fan back in 2002, this first album was not my favorite. Like I'm not gonna lie, it was not my favorite album. I think until I became an adult did that album grow on me more. You know, I guess I was able to like understand it at like a different level, more of a maturity level, I guess you can say. But it wasn't until I was an adult that this album really stuck out to me. And I Heard You was the one that like really stuck with me the most. And I think just because just hearing those lyrics, I was able to relate, you know, I was able to relate to them in the sense of like, wait, in high school, I kind of felt that way too, you know, and like, just, I don't know, I was able to relate more as an adult versus high school me, which was kind of weird to me. I was like, you would think high school me would be able to relate to that album more because I feel like it is more of like their high school album, as you can say.
Definitely.
You know?
But I think there's something that is to be said about like being a grown adult and having kind of an outside perspective on your own adolescence.
Right.
That sounds, I don't know if like pretentious is the right word, but too like academic.
Yeah.
But you know, you grow up and sometimes you just have a better understanding of what actually happened to you and what you were feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the lyrics. What's your interpretation of this song?
Okay, so my interpretation of this song is just the person. I don't know if it wants. It could be, you know, it could be
the narrator.
The narrator is just feeling like, you know, he's not. They are not relating, or they're not getting across to this person. You know, in this case, it was the girl because it talks about having her quarterback boyfriend. So it's more of like, you know, either he tried talking to her or whatever the case may be, and just didn't fall in his place, because he even says like, I'm sorry, like, you know, I don't want you to, I heard you say you're not good enough for me, you know? So it's like either he's getting rejected constantly or something of that nature, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I started my notes for this with oof, big ouch right here.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's about being rejected by someone that's cooler than you.
Yeah.
Because you're not good enough. And, you know, likely a high school boy being rejected by this cool girl he wants to date, you know. I don't know if he asked her out and she said no, or if they were dating and she broke up with him for, you know, the football quarterback. But he says that he screwed up again, which I think that line really gets me, because like, okay, did he actually do something like awful that would like ruin his chances, or is he just like, oh, she rejected me, it must be because of this totally innocuous thing that I did, you know?
And I love that he keeps saying like, I heard you, you know, I keep saying that over and over. It's like my favorite part. I'm like, man, if only I could hear this live, you know? Like,
I know, awesome. It's like a chant almost, like gang vocals. Yeah. I want to just touch on kind of the idea of rejection. Like, I know we're getting pretty like intense about this, but like, is your guess that, you know, the girl this narrator is talking about, did she explicitly say like, you're not good enough for me? Or do you think that the narrator of this song is kind of just presuming that?
I kind of feel like he's presuming, in the way they said like, I heard you say, you know, it's kind of like, I wasn't paying attention, I walked into the wall again. Like, I kind of feel like it was more of like, he just presumes that she thinks that, you know, like just the way.
Right. Which is like kind of very clever.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
He's not, if we're taking this as what it's about, like, he's not saying, I heard the, you know, really rude names that you called me or whatever.
Right.
It's, oh, well, you said this, and what I heard was I'm not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, like, well, I'll get into my own experience of rejection, but like, you know, sometimes it is personal. It is, sometimes it isn't. Often it's not. Okay. But it hurts.
Exactly.
And it's so easy to say, don't take it personal, or you deserve better, or whatever, but like, it still hurts. And I think, I was thinking about this because I'm trying to think, like, is this song only about like wanting to date someone that's cooler than you, that's rejecting you, or is it just about wanting to like fit in with a certain crowd? Is it both?
I feel
I'm
like it's
kind of
both.
not sure.
Yeah, I feel like it could be both because I mean, especially in high school, like you want to be like you want to fit in with everyone, So I think it could go as both, like not just dating someone, but trying to fit in with the cool crowd or whatever you want to call it, So I think it definitely could be both.
Yeah, no, I think about that too, and I think back to what we were saying about I heard, you said this, I heard that I'm not good enough, I'm not cool,
Right.
And it's like, you don't need to have someone actually say the words, you don't fit in, you're not cool, for you to know. Most people, like, obviously, some people are not great at picking up social cues for so many different reasons. But I mean, if you're not invited to the party, like,
right, definitely,
if nobody's sitting with you at lunch, like nobody's picking you, if you're picked last in gym class,
you're right.
Yeah. Where do you think this song fits, like, in terms of genre? How would you classify it?
I don't know. I feel like this is more of like their pop punkish, like especially like this song alone. I think it definitely fit in that pop punk genre just because it was that beginning of their beginning stages of Good Charlotte. So I think pop punk for sure.
I get such a like retro pop punk vibes to like how high energy this is. Yeah.
For some reason, I think like Not Another Teen Movie. Whenever I hear this song, I think of like that movie, Not Another Teen. Like just something like in that 90s time, or like early 2000s. Like,
okay, so let's get into a little bit of backstory and some articles I pulled. So I did not really find interviews where they talked about this song in particular, but as I always reference when we talk about the first album, there's not a whole lot of interviews from that time period online.
Yeah.
So, but I do remember a lot of interviews where, and this is often cited on like fan sites too, where the twins talked about high school and love and dating, and Benji saying that Joel was always moping about some girl. And, we know that all 4 original members of GC were outsiders. They didn't fit in. They got bullied. They were not the cool kids. So I'm going to read some quotes from a wonderful Washington Post piece called Mastering the Geek Tragedy. It's such a great article. So this is the opening. Sitting in a chauffeured van in the parking lot of La Plata High School, the members of Good Charlotte reminisce about the high school agonies they've not yet forgotten. Because, pause here, this was published November 12th, 2000. So they were 2.5 years out of high school.
Yeah.
Or so,
Yeah.
All 5 of them attended La Plata High. Twin brothers Benji and Joel, the band's songwriters and oldest members, graduated in 97. Didn't Paul also graduate in 97?
Right, I was going to say that. I think he did.
I think so.
Yeah.
Billy, the youngest, graduated last May. So they all vividly remember the way their schoolmates taunted Benji because his black nail polish defied Southern Maryland convention. The time some jocks taped Joel to a locker room bench and rubbed Ben Gay on a part of his body where Ben Gay doesn't belong. And, then we know they started the band. Joel tells a story of, these kids would prank call them saying, we're at Atlantic Records and we want to sign you. And he said, those type of things hurt. It's funny now, but back then it sucked. And then there's another quote, which I love that you had mentioned, Not Another Teen Movie, because as I was reading through my notes before we hopped on, I read this and I thought of Not Another Teen Movie. I was like, it's perfect. The Ascent of Good Charlotte plays like one of those impossible 80s teen movies in which the geek who gets picked on in school turns out to be like really, really cool.
So awesome.
Yeah, right. I mean, Benji and Joel married
Right.
in Hollywood.
Exactly.
And Billy and Paul are also married to gorgeous, wonderful women. Like, and they're all extremely talented, extremely successful. Like, things have worked out.
Yes. And not to mention, they're all very handsome men. You got to admit, they're very, very polite, very handsome men. So
right, they all have children. Like,
exactly.
I also want to mention a quote from the iconic "The Polite Punks" article on Rolling Stone, which is probably my favorite thing that's been written about Good Charlotte. Like, I cite it all the time. It's so good. As the stress mounted at home, the differences in the twins' personalities became apparent. Benji, brawnier and more quick-tempered than his brother, put up a tough guy front, and Joel, the more sensitive of the two, pined for girls and moped around the house. When my dad left, I was always one that was kind of like crying about it. Like, why us? Why us? Joel says. Lucky for me, I had Benj. We've always been sidekicks. The chip he had on his shoulder was more out of necessity back then. But we always had each other all the time to say, man, don't worry. It'll be all right. It'll get better.
That breaks my heart. But I'm just so glad that they've come such a long way. It's like...
Yeah. But even, I was just thinking about, I interviewed Billy in 2018, right before Generation RX came out, and for Substream. And I remember him talking about how this is in 2018, how they've always felt like kind of, misfits and like underdogs in a way, even at the top of their game. Right. And I think that that's something that's like so core to who they are, that they celebrate that, not in like a baggage kind of way, so much as like they're always just their own kind of thing, and they're not.
It's almost like they don't like.
They
don't they don't forget where they came from in a sense too. Like they just always remember that, which is awesome.
Definitely. Well, Jonathan, do you have any memories or stories that you want to share about I Heard You?
I think, like I said earlier, not so much like memories of like when the song first came out, but I think for me, it's just, again, just kind of like taking me back to like being in high school and feeling like I didn't fit in, because in high school, I was going through like, not only was I trying to fit in with like the cool kids, I guess you can say, because I mean, who doesn't, right, in high school, but also like feeling like I didn't really belong anywhere, and just to kind of like side note, I was dealing with like my sexuality at the time. I was dealing with like, trying to be like the cool kid, so it was like two battles that I was.
So you're trying to figure out who you are.
Right. And it was like a double battle almost. So I feel like for me, when I hear this song now as an adult, I just think like, dang, like that really was me. Like, not necessarily trying to like please anybody, but like, I guess in a way trying to please myself and trying to like figure out, again, like we said, who I was, so that's definitely what it takes me back to.
And if you don't know who you are, but of course you don't fit in.
Right.
Because you don't know where you're going to fit in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I could go on about rejection and not fitting in for hours. I have two significant crushes that I think of from middle school. There was Spencer. He never actually rejected me, which was great. And I never like made a move or anything, but I knew like he was a popular kid, right? He was my neighbor. Like we were like friendly, and my high school crush was Mike, and he like, I like wrote him a letter and he never said, you're not good enough for me. He actually said like, you're awesome. And like, I'm so glad we're on the swim team together. Like he was really, really polite about it. But of course I, had the thought, oh, I'm just not good enough for him. If I was prettier, if I was cooler, if I had, if I was better at this or that, or more like this, or, he'd like me. As an adult, I realized I was diagnosed with ADHD, and something that I've always been very sensitive to rejection. And I learned the term rejection sensitive dysphoria, which basically means you're extremely sensitive to real or perceived rejection. Like, even if you're not actually being rejected, you sometimes perceive it as such and get really upset. And it sucks. It's not great, but it's like helpful having a name for it, And I think that's like a more common thing than people even realize. It's just people's, neurodiversities. Like people have different ways that they, in my case, experience rejection. People have different ways they understand and relate to others. People have different ways they show they want to be your friend, or they show they want to date you, different understandings of social norms and social cues, and people have their own trauma. But, and it's very like, I've been to therapy and a lot of self-work, like a lot of reflection. And it's very easy to say, like, it's not about you, because I'm very passionate about this. Like, I feel so strongly about this. Like, it's very easy to say, oh, it's not about you, don't take it personal, but it's so, it still is a sadness, often a hurt when, like, you're 15 and you don't have anybody to sit with at lunch. And you go up to people you think you're friends with and they're like, oh, sorry, our table's full, or whatever it is, and maybe they're saving a seat for someone, or maybe they are actually icing you out,
Right.
But it's okay to feel sad about rejection, but also, yes, it's often not about you. People have their own shit, their own trauma, their own life experiences, like that inform, how they treat others, how they interact with others.
And as you're mentioning that, I kind of feel like I might have that too, like in the sense of like, I've always felt rejected, whether it be, like fitting in, or like, even as an adult, like getting a job, like it was always just something like to reject you by. So and again, like my trauma too, growing up, it was like, maybe I felt like rejected in that sense, or I felt like I was being rejected and I really wasn't, but it could have, just stemmed from so many different things of just,
and there's, what I've read about RSD, like in ADHD, is like some of it is executive function and like neurochemical and just like hardwired,
right?
Like in the same way that my brain kind of has trouble knowing what to pay attention to sometimes. My brain emotionally sometimes doesn't know what to pay attention to, and sometimes it hyper focuses on something that's actually not a big deal, but I get very sad about it. So it's that, and it's also like, like you were saying, like life experiences kind of like build up, so you start to presume almost. And maybe I give off signals that I don't want to fit it.
Right.
Who knows?
It's also like too, like what, just that one time of being rejected. It's just after that you're gonna think every time you're just gonna get rejected. It's just domino effect in a way. I guess
it's a huge domino effect.
Right.
And to tie into our next topic a little. It's a theme that I think really relates to a couple other GC songs.
Oh, definitely.
Which the first one I had on here was the one your cousin Jasmine spoke about, which was Change, which,
right? Yes. That it intertwines together. It's like a part one and part two, just I heard you and Change. Just like first you have the rejection part, and then you have the part where it's like, okay, I'm standing here like, looking at you,
Yeah. Right. Maybe it's like we're at prom and I see you dancing with the new boyfriends. Like, Little Things comes to mind for me.
I agree.
Else? Yeah.
No, I think those two for sure. You hit them pretty much on the nail on the head. Yeah, for sure. Little Things, like they even almost like sound the same, right? Like they almost like it'd be good to have them together. Like
yeah. But I think there's even like, on Generation RX, a lot of that album is like thinking about how you talk to yourself, right?
For sure. Yes.
And look, this is, again, like I've done a bunch of therapy. I've done a lot of self-reflection, like since I was diagnosed with ADHD and had my breakup and everything. And like, the things we tell ourselves can affect how we feel, and the things that we assume from others, right?
Right.
So if you have always gotten rejected and someone says oh, no, I don't want to date you, you're probably going to assume it's you. And you're probably going to start like saying not so nice things to yourself, which is, you know, the generation our X, right?
Definitely.
So it's cool to kind of see those like ultimately similar kind of things, like self-esteem, I guess. I'm like 100% like self-esteem and self-image coming back just in different ways.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, you know, we have to just learn to love ourselves, which is really hard when you're being rejected all the time, you know. But kind of to quote one of my favorite people, RuPaul, it's like, if you can't love yourself, how the hell can you love someone else, right? So you have to love yourself first before you can actually, you know, love somebody else. But again, it is hard with that rejection. It's like, you know, you're getting knocked down left and right, but you just have to love yourself, you know. Like,
I want to take a second to continue this tangent, I guess, but like, I want to mention that I encourage anyone who feels they need it, who feels they might possibly benefit for it, to seek therapy, as well as if any kind of psychiatric medication is right for you, that's great too. That can make a difference too. But to also, like, a big thing I've had to learn is like, I'm not a work in progress, and like, you can accept love as you are now,
right?
You know, and there's, like you said, some kind of loving yourself that has to happen before you can, like, especially in like a romantic relationship, before you can really get there. But it doesn't mean you have to like act as if you never had whatever difficult experiences you've had before you deserve love. You know, you have to like come to terms with it, I think. I
hate that, like, especially for men, I think a lot of times men don't want to seek therapy. They feel like that's for the weak, or that makes them look weak. But I mean, I did therapy too, especially in the start of COVID, that, you know, a lot of things were just hitting me. You know, I was at home and like, you know, all I did was think. So I definitely feel like it does help. So to echo what you said, therapy definitely does help.
Yeah, therapy, and some of therapy is talking, some of self-improvement is figuring out what you are lacking in your life, and maybe you know, therapy helps you figure that out, but like, and doing that, you know, like if you're lacking community, then figuring out how to get there. It's
definitely.
Well, I want to get into some critical response and reviews and such of this album. Not a whole lot that came up in terms of reviews. There's not a lot of reviews of this album online, but Chorus.fm did mention it in their 20-year retrospective of this album. They said, another ode to the days of growing up while blocking out the outside noise.
I agree. I definitely think we all kind of went through that, right?
Yeah. And then Tressa the Insane on Angel Fire gave the album 8 thumbs up, and she seemed into this song. The songs are really quite simple, especially the guitar parts. So it really surprised me when I opened the CD booklet and discovered they have 2 guitarists. The lyrics are nothing special, but at least they are trying to branch out beyond every song being about girls. That's a good point. A lot of pop punk bands would only put out albums about girls.
Right.
Waldorf Worldwide, East Coast Anthem, I Heard You, and Walk By are all good pop punk songs, plus The Little Things was a good choice for a single. Good Charlotte is more enjoyable if you accept it as catchy pop punk. Don't expect something mind-blowingly original. Okay. YouTube comments, there was a fan upload by AC Whitley. A lot of people here were mentioning Project Gotham, which I think is the video game. And someone also mentioned hearing it on Dude, Where's My Car? Although I thought it was Little Things that played on Dude, Where's My Car?
That's what I thought too.
They might have got mixed up.
Yeah.
Underground Punk Guy said, this is going straight into the summer pop punk songs playlist. Maddie said, I love their voices together in this song. Boss Sound Productions said, damn, I was listening to this song in my head because I remember it from a racing game back when Xbox first came out, and I was trying to remember the band. Jack Martini said, I'm here because Alexa said this was her favorite Good Charlotte song. Wait, you know what? I have my Echo Dot right next to me. Let's ask. I don't know if I have headphones on, so I don't know if it'll pick it up, but we'll see.
Okay.
Alexa, what's your favorite Good Charlotte song?
Here's something I found on the web. According to popblock.com, the anthem became one of Good Charlotte's most popular songs and has been featured on numerous film and video game soundtracks.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So the anthem and the anthem has been featured on a lot of soundtracks.
Yeah.
I want to get into the comments on song meetings. The lyrics, by the way, the lyrics here are not I Heard You by Good Charlotte. These are the lyrics for Grow Up by Simple Plan, but the comments seem to be referring to I Heard You, and they are so good. So good. Because Jonathan, I feel like you and I have both been like reliving some of the not so great parts of high school right now.
Right. Yeah.
And reading these comments, I'm like, oh wow, that's how I talked about, the popular kids when I was in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
When I was, writing on MySpace and whatever. Digital Stitches said, agreed. Love this song too. Good Charlotte's one of my fave bands. This song's cool because it talks about all the stupid stuck-up bitches, how they reject guys just because they don't hang out with the right people or dress in the right clothes. Jess88 said, I love GC and Digital Stitches. Why are you going for those girls in the first place? I hate how jocks, preps, and cheer chicks think they rule the world and can put anyone down. I love this song because it's talking about not caring if people don't like you because you are just yourself, and no matter what anyone says, that ain't going to change.
They're really in their feelings in those comments, aren't they?
Yeah. Tragic Emo said, I think this song is awesome because they just bluntly state what's going on. They're a group of guys that can have fun and get over things that are of no importance. Rock on! Spider Girl said, one of my fave GC songs. I love how their lyrics can apply to any number of different shitty situations, whether it be in love, friendship, family, whatever. It's great stuff.
She's right. Definitely.
Yeah. There's so many good ones here. Dean Ask 88 said, Good Charlotte isn't emo by any means. More like really poppy punk or pop. Don't get me wrong, I really like GC, but to confuse them with the emotion-filled lyrics of emo bands would be a terrible thing.
I have to disagree with that one, though. I feel like they definitely have a lot of emotional lyrics.
Yeah. Oh, man. We're getting into the comments where people share their stories, their personal stories, how they relate to these songs. And I'm not trying to put anyone on blast, but you put yourself on blast by, writing your life story in a comment on songmeanings.com. And that was in like the year 2000. So I don't really feel it at all. MJ Stokes 85 said, this song is brilliant. I was able to relate to it recently when I asked a girl out and she said no, just because I'm not popular. And she didn't want to be seen with me. And she decided to go out with some loud show off just to be seen. Oh, well, I'll live.
I bet they're on top by now. I bet you're there.
Yeah.
She's doing better now.
Yeah. Crazy Cool said, the best line ever is, I saw your boyfriend. He's 6'3", quarterback on varsity. And that's because this hot guy who plays pro lacrosse is 6'4" and played QB on varsity. Abstract Dam said, this song is whiny. It's just more of the same. The cheerleaders don't like me sentiment, which has gotten really old. Got a few more. Bang Bang Goes the Gun said, you GC bashers make me giggle. GC never said they were punk, the media did. I never heard any band members say, we're the punkiest punks to ever hit Punkville. I think it's saying that at one time, they tried to be in with the popular kids and realized, hey, fuck this shit, and went back to being losers and liking their status. It's always better being hated for who you are than to be loved for being a total fake. One of my guy friends on the football team and dates a cheerleader, but the other football players always picked on him, so he quit, and then his girlfriend broke up with him. So this song reminds me of him. I bet this person went on and dated the guy friend.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Last one we'll read, Peach Dolly 182 said, I love this song. It reminds me of the Ataris, and I love Good Charlotte. Long live emo. That's a good call out. Do you know
Yeah.
San Dimas High School Football Rules by the Ataris?
No, I don't.
It's a song about rejection, and it's very high energy, kind of similar beat to this almost. So that's a good call out. I'll have to put that on the playlist. Some Amazon customer reviews. A few people saying they liked it or it was their favorite on the album. A lot of people compared it to Little Things or The Click, which made sense. And some people liked that similarity, some didn't. Fun Lady Mars gave the album a 5 out of 5 and said, "I don't care what you say, these guys are the best. I Heard You was an excellent track, and as a bit of a warning, you might get flashbacks of the song that is so intoxicating. It's another one of my favorites." P. Woods gave the album 3 out of 5. The headline was good, but you might feel disappointed. The songs I would recommend on this album, if you love The Young and the Hopeless, are I Don't Want to Stop, I Heard You, this is kind of rapish, but only a bit, The Click, The Best, and Walk By. If you want to know Good Charlotte and you want to love them, just get The Young and the Hopeless and don't bother with this one. Drew gave the album 4 out of 5, headline a refreshing new band. Said, one of the harder edge songs about troubles with popularity, and ends with a Styx-esque sing-along. Mike gave the album 5 out of 5, gave this song a 4 out of 5, and called it a heavier punk song. John Williams gave the album 5 out of 5 and said, I really like the lyrics, they're funny. Ugh.
Funny.
And then we had a couple people saying they're a little old to be singing about high school. And then Dave Richards said that it was very simple to Simple Plan's good songs. Just not a bad comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to start wrapping up. And the question I'm about to ask is something I always ask at the end. But especially hearing your experiences of relating to this album and this song, I'm so excited to ask it. How has I Heard You held up for you over time?
This is a good question. I think it comes back to just realizing that, you know, like you can come out on top at the end of the day, you know. I mean, look at those two marrying, you know, one of the two most beautiful, most famous women in Hollywood, right? So I think it just comes back to, and kind of back to me really quick, just, yeah, like I always felt rejected in high school. At the end of my senior year, I ended up being prom king. I mean, this emo,
good for you.
you know, this little emo gay guy was prom king, you know, so that was like really cool. But I think it just comes back to like, yeah, you're going to get rejected. It's going to happen throughout your life, but you can come out on top. You know, you really can come out on top no matter what it may be. So yeah, for sure.
I love that. And I love hearing about just self-growth and
you know,
being able to find some good things.
And we continue we're always in a continuous self-growing, you know. It never stops growing, you know. We as people just keep growing. So absolutely. What has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and how has that changed? I don't think it really has changed, but I think just since 2002, they just always I always knew that they were just something I could rely on, you know, like their songs were always just something I could always relate to and just go to whenever I wasn't feeling myself, you know, or just feeling down or whatever the case may be. I was always able to go to them, you know. I mean, just seeing them live is just one of the most awesome things, like especially when you're barricade up there and Joel's right there, you know, doing the wave and whatnot. It's just an amazing feeling, and they're just such great guys, and they're an awesome band, and I'll forever love them for that, you know. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people share that sentiment. I think people are going to love this one. Yeah. Jonathan, do you have any last words about I Heard You, about Good Charlotte, or about yourself? Not so much. I just think if you haven't really listened to Good Charlotte, I know people, you know, I feel like more when we were younger, people kind of not put them down, but they would like talk crap about them. You know, they weren't really like the coolest band or whatever, but I would always rock my GC shirt in high school and junior high and be like, hey, I'm the biggest fan. I have no regrets here, you know. So definitely just check them out if you haven't really listened to Good Charlotte. All their albums are great. I mean, Joel is on the VMAs tonight presenting, you know, 20 years later. That's crazy. He is? Yeah. I heard he's presenting tonight on the VMA. So definitely pretty cool. I'll have to watch then. Yeah. So 20 years later, he's still out there, you know. So just, yeah, Good Charlotte is just awesome. If you haven't heard them or seen them live, check them out. They're one of a kind, you know. Incredible.
Well, Jonathan, this has been so wonderful. I also do a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist. So I'm going to include I Heard You. You gave me some Paramore songs before. I would love if you could give me another suggestion of something you've been listening to lately that's not Good Charlotte or Paramore.
Okay, so I'm gonna I like to go back on tangents if you noticed.
Yeah.
So remember back in the day when Joel and Hillary dated, right? Hillary
Oh,
Duff.
yeah. Oh, how could I forget?
Right. So I didn't. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was not the biggest fan of her when that whole time era. I don't know why. I just was like,
I
no,
think
like,
a lot of us hated her because we wanted to be the one dating Joel.
Right.
We
And that
wanted
wasn't
the
really
famous rock star boyfriend,
right.
even though I
Right.
was like 13 when that happened.
Right. Like that wasn't really my case either. Like I didn't want him, but I just felt like I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of her. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Well, she was a
Right.
prep.
Right.
You
Right.
know, she was not like a punk.
Right.
So why was she with him? Yeah.
Exactly. I love Lizzie McGuire, but just wasn't a fan of hers. Now I am though. Now I am. Now knowing that they're friends, I'm like a fan of her now.
Oh, they're friends. Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, her now husband, he's in a band called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but it's Winnica Bowling League.
Winnica Bowling League. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. No,
Yes, so-
Matthew Coma. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I've been listening to them a lot. So their songs "Slow Dances" and "CVS" are like my two favorite songs right now. So
You should all. I love that you mentioned that. You should also look up the song "We Might Fall" by Ghastly.
okay.
Matthew Coma does the vocals for it.
Right.
Ghastly's a DJ,
Uh-huh.
but I mention it because Ghastly also loves like emo music, and
Uh-huh.
like a lot of DJs was into that before he became a DJ. But specifically, "We Might Fall" by Ghastly started as a remix of "Sweetness" by Jimmy Eat World.
Wow. Okay, I'm
So
definitely listening
if
to
you
that.
like emo stuff and you like Matthew Coma, you have to listen to that song.
Okay, I'm gonna listen to it for sure today. Like have to.
I
Yes,
love
so yeah.
CVS is great, and the video for that is really fun.
Yes, love it. So yes,
Yeah.
definitely recommend listening to that. They're my favorites right now.
Amazing. Jonathan, this has been wonderful. Where can people keep up with you online?
I love this. I've had a great time today, Molly. They can reach me on Twitter at Sir John Hurt. So that's SirJonHurt on Twitter and Instagram, the same names.
Amazing, Jonathan. This has been so great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. On our last episode, we talked about Reason to Stay from Youth Authority. On our next episode, we'll be talking about a song from The Young and the Hopeless. Oh, and by the way, the one after that is going to be episode 100. I can't believe how close we are. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Molly Hudelson once again, and as always, I'm your host as well as the producer, creator, and editor of this podcast. You can find me, Molly, at mhudelson, MHUDELSON, on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow Generation GC at Generation GC Pod, POD, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please make sure to subscribe to the show, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen, but most importantly, tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best way to make the Generation GC fam grow. Thanks for tuning in.